What's up, everybody? I'm Rafael. Welcome back to the Outrank Podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Steve Lewis. Steve, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. Glad it's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday, man. Thank goodness. And we are joined by a special guest, Josh Melching. Melching, right? Or is it
Yep.
Melching?
Melching.
Okay.
Yep.
Melching. Josh Melching. He's joining us, retired out of the Special Forces community of the Air Force. And welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. I know this is we're a startup program, but we want everybody to get their voices out and get their stories out because everybody's got a story. So I guess I'll be the first one to start with the questions. Originally, where'd you grow up?
Northern Michigan. I lived in Northern Michigan, Sheboygan, up until I graduated high school and left for the military. So
your whole life you were in Sheboygan?
Yeah, pretty much in the woods the whole time. I mean, there's like a couple different areas of Michigan. Everybody thinks of like Detroit, and I was like way north in the woods on dirt roads. So not Detroit.
As a college football fan, I always think of Ann Arbor. Like that's one of the big ones there. And I always think of the University of Michigan. Were you a University of Michigan fan?
I never picked sides. You know, like one of my grandpas was Michigan, one was Michigan State, and I was like, I don't really care. I was out snowmobiling or hunting or something else, and I played sports, I just didn't want to watch. So
all right. So that gets us into it. As a kid, were you active as in the sports community and stuff like that? And you kind of answered that you played a little bit. Which sports did you play?
Yeah, I grew up playing soccer and basketball mainly, and then in high school I got into football. About halfway through high school, I kind of started like coming off of playing sports and cared more about like snowmobiling and just having fun. So I probably could have done well in basketball, but I kind of let that go. And I had buddies that went on to play, college basketball and stuff. And I was like, because I was tall, so I was 6'3" in high school. So, yeah, it just I didn't get along with the coaches, and I just didn't feel it. So
I wish you could have shared some of your height with me. I wish you could have shared some of your height with me. I was 5'10" and 210 pounds and an offensive lineman in Miami, Florida. So I didn't do too hot. Yeah, it went too hot.
5'7", and 130 pounds. Most of my high school career didn't get me too far either.
Well, hence where we all ended up, right?
Well, yeah. Ended up all right.
Not a professional athlete, but yeah.
Hey, we all ended up on the good side of things. Steve, you got a question, bud?
Yeah.
So I'll admit I was way too lazy for soccer. No, it was a whole lot of running back and forth, and I considered playing basketball myself until I realized I couldn't shoot the ball, and I didn't want to run back and forth on the court. So yeah, that's why I ended up with football and baseball. But what positions did you play during those sports?
Soccer, I was a fullback. I played soccer since I was like 4 or 5 years old, all the way through right up until beginning of high school. And then, I was a center in basketball and pretty much stayed there through my whole time playing sports. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. But I was 6'3". I think I was 185 my senior year, and, a little bit bigger now, but I just lift weights. I lift weights and go to the gym and all that. But yeah, so
I'm a little bit bigger too. That's because I eat. So
yeah. I eat too. So.
Yeah. So what kind of student were you?
Man, I wouldn't say I was a good student. I wasn't a bad student either. I did enough to get by with minimal effort, really, and as far as academically, I never really put that much into it, honestly. And then I decided like halfway through my, high school that I probably wasn't going to go to college. I just didn't want to go to school. And then started focusing. My sister was in the Air Force. She went in 3 years before I did. She graduated 3 years ahead of me. Then I was like, you'll never take me. I would never do that. You're an idiot. And then that's exactly what I did. So, so I didn't really put any eggs in the going to college basket. And then here I am 5 degrees later, and, I didn't even want to go to school in the military. They just made me. So, but
5 degrees.
Yeah, I got a bunch of associate's degrees and 1 bachelor's, so don't get too excited. But
no, that's still awesome.
Yeah, I cross-trained, so I ended up with 2 when I was in maintenance, and then the rest all on the other side. So, and then finally got my bachelor's before I retired. So
it's funny because you were like, you're an idiot to your sister. I was sitting there. One of my best friends in high school, he ended up going to the Marines, and he was like, dude, you should just come with me to the Marines. And I was like, I can't do it. If somebody yelled at me, if a drill instructor yelled at me, I'd punch him in the face. Needless to say, I did not punch him in the face when he yelled at me. When I got in, I was a late comer anyways. I was a late joiner. I joined at 21 years old. So I waited a couple years, which was to my benefit because in tech school I could drink. So helped me out.
It's probably a good thing that I couldn't drink. Probably a good thing.
Damn. I got my fill in those high school parties.
Yeah, well, that's where I started. I mean, but the older you got
started.
I was legal, and everybody's like, I'm like, what are you guys doing this weekend? And everybody's like, oh, I can't do anything. All right, well, I'm going to the freaking bowling alley, so I'm gonna go drink on base. It's cheap. So
it was still is.
Yeah. So do you feel like and I ask the sports questions because a lot of us have had a sports background that have been on, and I feel like it kind of led to a lot of leadership and a lot of discipline that led into what we led into our career.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the discipline aspect. Yeah, I mean, I stayed an athlete. I mean, I was always athletic growing up. So even when I first came in the military, like I was a maintainer. I wasn't always special warfare. And then as a maintainer, I was still going to the gym and working out and being super active and, leading the unit in PT and became the PTL for the unit and all that stuff. So ended up working for the commander as his unit fitness guy. But that is what highlighted me to cross over to special warfare. Like I worked out with a chief sniper at the gym, and he was like, why don't you go do something else? Like, you're a little too hardcore to be a maintainer. And I was like, I mean, I like being a maintainer, but he's like, you could really do something else. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what yet, but he's like, you'll figure it out. And then he told me about TACP later, but yeah. So the answer is yes, for sure.
So you started as a maintainer. What made that decision? Like, you told your sister you're an idiot, you'll never catch me. And then a few years later, there you are.
I mean, I was a mechanic. Yeah, I was a mechanic more than anything. I liked working on cars, and even at a super young age, I bought my first car when I was 12. And it wasn't anything fancy, but I started, doing jobs when I was like junior high, like an actual, like, on a gopher on a construction site, picking up shingles and washing dishes at a restaurant in town. And like when I was really young. So I bought my first car when I was 12 before I could even drive, and my mom would let me drive it around the yard. I had a 89 GMC Jimmy. And of course we lived in the country. Now, mind you, so you can get away with that in the country. You can't get away with it in San Antonio, but so I bought my first car when I was 12, and my buddies and I were all the same. Like, we all loved, snowmobiles and cars, and that's all we cared about. So even more than sports. So when I went to go in the military, and, I was a fuel shop guy. So I was an actual maintainer, not like POL fuels, but I was a, mechanic fuels. And that was an option. I was like, yeah. And it literally transferred from, like, I felt like I went from auto shop in high school to auto shop in the military, working on F-16s and A-10s right off the bat. So, and it wasn't until 9 years later that I decided to go special warfare. So I was almost halfway through my career. That's why when that chief said that, he's like, usually people by this time have kind of like let that stuff go a little bit. And I was like, no, I mean, I was like, I don't know, 28 when I cross-trained. So, I mean, to me, it was perfect time, but.
Right on. Anyway. Steve, you got something, buddy?
I was just, because you mentioned A-10, so does that mean you spent any time down at Davis Mountain?
No. So I worked on A-10s up at Eielson.
Okay.
Yeah. So never went to DM, but.
So walk us, I guess, through the different bases, obviously, up until, you left for Special Warfare, because we want to hear that story separate.
Yeah. So I went Lackland to Eielson was my first base, Eielson in Alaska. That was my shell shock as a kid coming to the military. I mean, I went straight from high school. I didn't even go to I signed up in the delayed enlistment program a year before I graduated high school. So as a junior, I missed all of the senior party, like everything that you did as a senior, I didn't do because I was already in the delayed enlistment program. But so 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I was gone. I didn't even go to most of the parties or anything. I was in, basic already. But I went to Eielson, and then 3 years there, went to Hill Air Force Base in Utah, worked F-16s there, and then went to Korea from there, clicked the button, went to Osan, did a little over a year at Osan, and then my follow-on that I had coming from Hill was Germany, was Ramstein. So, but I kind of chose my own career for the most part. I mean, other than Eielson, I didn't choose Eielson, but other than that, I mean, I pretty much got to go everywhere that I had wanted to go because I volunteered for Korea, and I realized right away that if you volunteer for Korea, you kind of get to choose your own adventure.
That's
if you're
true.
lucky.
Yeah.
So, going to Germany, I was like, I definitely want to go overseas. So I went to Germany, and then from Germany, that's where I actually retrained out of. I deployed out of Hill for my first deployment to Iraq, and then I, got to do Korea, and then deployed out of Germany too. But that was really a TCN duty, going over to guard people and do that stuff. But then after that, it got a little bit more exciting. But
when were you at Osan?
So I did Osan twice. I would have done it 3 times. Actually, I was about to before I retired, but I was at Osan the first time was 2006, 2007 ish. Yeah.
Nice.
07, 08 probably. I think it was 07, 08 the first time. Then I went back in 15, 16.
When did you enlist? What year did you enlist?
2002. I left in 2002.
Okay.
So and retired in 22.
So what was it like? You remember where you were at on 9/11? I mean, all of us do.
Yeah. I was sitting in auto shop. Honestly, I didn't really know much about the Twin Towers. I didn't really know a whole heck of a lot, I would say, back then. But I was in auto shop. So that was the year before I graduated, and I literally signed up. I mean, I won't say that drove me to sign up necessarily, but I was right there at the time, so because of the delayed enlistment program, I was in the delayed enlistment program for a whole year before I even left. So I was already going. But at that time, I thought I wanted to be a PJ, and then I realized I wasn't a good swimmer, and I was like, all right, maybe not. So we didn't have a high school pool. So we had a hotel in town that you could go swim at, but it was only 6 feet deep. And I'm 6'3", and I'm, swimming in this tiny pool. And I was like,
I'm drowning.
Not saying that would have helped, but it didn't do me any favors. So I was like, nope, not going to do that. I'm not going to be a PJ.
Josh could walk end to end while everybody else is swimming. He's like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah, no, I could. Yeah. So, but there was really no swim program or anything in my hometown. So there was no chance. I mean, we had the Great Lakes, but you're not swimming in that necessarily.
Hell no. I mean, that's way too cold.
Short time, but you're not going to be doing a lot of. Yeah, you're not going to do a lot of swimming in it, really. So
I was going to say you got 2.5 good weeks in June, and then you're done.
Yeah, the snow just left. So
you did your time in Ramstein, and you decided to retrain, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How did that go?
Yeah.
Oh man. So going into special warfare, I think in general, it's probably the same with any retraining or cross training. I would say program, but anyone that goes to cross train knows it's difficult. And without going too far into the details, I was leaving a career field that was balanced. So when you leave a career field that's balanced, you create a shortage.
Mm-hmm.
So at AFPC, when they have a stack of all the retrainees that are coming in, and you have all the ones that aren't going to create an issue, and then you have the ones that do create an issue. And the ones that do create an issue, such as a shortage in the military, are last. So when they get through all these people that don't create an issue, then they go down this stack. And then, it's like the littlest thing can get you disqualified. And I was actually deployed by then. Like, I really didn't even know what a TACP was. And that's what I ended up being. But, and I had buddies that were TACPs that I met in Germany that I didn't know what they did, because the only time I met them was when we were out at the bar, and they were from, Baumholder or another base, and living with the Army. And I only saw them when we went out. I just knew they were crazy. So when that chief actually suggested that I look at retraining to be a TACP, I was like, I don't even know what a TACP is. And he's like, well, look it up. And so I did, and I was like, man, this sounds awesome. I tried to be OSI first. Quick funny story about that. But one of my friends was OSI, and she had told me, another girl from the gym, she was like, I just got back from a deployment, and I was in Iraq, and I was riding around an SUV, with MP5s, getting in gunfights. And I was like, that's what I want to do, and so she's like, well, you should go try and be OSI. And I was like, and at the time I was a staff, I was E5. So I went and I interviewed with OSI, and they're like, well, tell us why you want to be OSI. And I was like, one of my friends just got back, gunfights and MP5, with MP5s downrange. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And the guy is sitting there looking at me like, no, that is not what we do. We investigate, people cheating on their wives and stuff. That's not our job. So he's like, don't come back, basically. And I was like, all right, well, I'll go find something else. So that's when I went back to the chief, and I was like, no, they told me to get bent, and then he's like, go look at TACP and see what you think. And I looked, and I was like, dude, I want to do it. I just got to find people that are. And then I knew guys that were TACPs, but so I ended up deploying in the middle of my process of trying to cross train or getting my cross train approved. And I started it 2 years before. So I was only in Germany I was going to be 3 years. And I knew that when I got there. So I was just hitting the year mark when I was there, when I put the cross training package in. So I had 2 years left to get this done, because once they assign you to your next base, coming off of overseas, going back to the States, like, you're pretty much locked in. So I had to do a bunch of stuff. I had to do a million things to go into special warfare. And then one of the things that happened was my medical physical came back. My flight physical came back saying you have an abnormal heart reading on your EKG. And I was literally just got downrange. I was deployed to UAE. And they were like, you're not going to, if you can't get this verified that there is no issue, your retraining package is just going to go away. And
because you were already in the balanced career field, and that's one of those little things that's going to.
Yeah, if you don't pass a flight physical, you're not going into special warfare. You're just not. So I was like, well, how do I pass that? And they're like, well, you need an ultrasound of your heart done. And I was like, I'm deployed. And they're like, you better figure it out quick. So it just so happens that one of the guys I was rooming with downrange, his commander, he was in dental, and his commander was there as the commander of the med group downrange. And he's like, if you think it'll work, man, we could talk to my commander and see what he can do. And he's a dental commander, but he's in charge. I mean, he's a full bird colonel. He's an 06, So we went and caught him after formation one day. And, he introduced us, and he's like, hey, Sergeant Melching's trying to retrain to special warfare. And, he got an abnormal EKG reading on his flight physical. And they said he needs an ultrasound done on his heart in order to continue, or it just his package is going to get canceled. And he looked at me and he's like, so you could have a heart condition right now. And I was like, yes, sir. Like, I mean, that's what they told me. And he's like, well, that sounds serious enough to me. And he's like, we'll get you a ride downtown. And so they literally sent me like downtown Dubai to go to a doctor in Dubai. Yeah. Which was, I just thought he was going to say no. Yeah. And went to a doctor, got an ultrasound done. They're like, hey, you're good. You just have a big heart. I've been lifting weights at the time, since I came in, my whole career. And they're like, you're already a big dude. When you lift a lot of weights for a long time, your heart gets bigger too. And I mean, I don't know if that's really what it was or not, but I do have a bigger heart than most people do. And yeah, he's like, you're good to go. Your heart's fine. So they approved it. And then still downrange, my package got to very final stages in AFPC, and I was literally waiting on the approval to go, give me a date. And I talked to a girl on the phone who I had to contact. I got an email to say that I had to contact her. And she said, so you leave Germany in October. And I was like, okay. And she's like, the class starts in October. And I was like, perfect. And she's like, well, you can't go right from Germany to starting the course. And I was like, why? And she's like, well, you need time in between to like readjust and stuff like that. I was like, I've been training for this for 2 years. Like I ruck, 12 miles to base and back every weekend just for fun. I run every day. I swim every day, like do all these things. And she's like, well, the class starts like 2 days after you would land in the States, and I'm not doing that. And she's on the phone. She's at AFPC. And I was
she's
like,
just like that. Like it's not happening because I'm saying you can't.
Yeah. She was like, you're done. And she literally was like, any other questions? And I've been working on this for years, and I was like, I mean, I guess not, and I hung up the phone. I'm sitting there and I'm just like crushed, like everything I've been doing was for nothing. And I was like, what if I called back and I got somebody else before she gets that pushed through? And I literally picked up the phone, called AFPC back. Another guy answered the phone, talking to him. He's like, you have 5 choices when you go to retrain. If you don't get the first one, you get your second one or third one, whatever. If you qualify to retrain, you get 5 different options of jobs. He's like, you have TACP on there 5 times. And I was like, yeah, if I don't get to be a TACP, I'm just not going to retrain. I'll just stay a maintainer. Then he's like, you don't have a wife or kids or anything? And I was like, no. And I've been training for this for years. Like, I'm ready to go. And he's like, so you could start the day after you land? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, I'm going to approve it. So I don't see why not. Yeah. So yeah, he approved it. And I mean, I literally did. I went right to class like the day after, which was fine. I was like, I was a staff coming through when all the, not everybody, but I actually had a major and a captain in my class as well. And then everybody else was pretty much, airmen coming in. But yeah, I mean, that dude basically changed my whole career. But
that's awesome.
I had a couple people help along the way too. When I got back from Germany, it wasn't finalized, and it was still kind of held up in limbo. And I ran into a general in a gym that I worked for on my first deployment in Iraq, and General Gorentz was his name. He's retired now. He was a 3 or 4 star. But I don't know if you've ever been to Iraq, but whenever you get there and pretty much anywhere, they do the base in brief. And they have the commander where he shows up and he gets you all, cooled up. And, yeah. So they were like, I was still a maintainer, at first deployment, I was out of Hill. And they're like, hey, we're going to go to the base in brief. And if the commander asks you what your mission is, it's air power for America right here, right now. And you sit down and you shut your mouth. That's what you do. And I was like, got it. I wasn't going to do anything other than that. I didn't even want him to talk to me. So he didn't ask me or anything.
You just move your mouth and go along with it.
Yeah, I didn't get called on. But after he gave his little spiel, pumping everybody up, he did do that. And he went to this tech, and he went to a couple people, and they all kind of said the same thing. And he's like, yep, that's what I wanted. And then he went to this tech at the time, and he was like, what's your mission? And he stood up, and he's like, no, sir. He's like, I'm actually here to work on my tan. And everybody kind of laughed, and like he laughed. And then he looked over at like the 06 on the side of the stage and like looked back at the guy, and he's like, but no, seriously, like, what's your mission here? And he's like, no, seriously, I'm here to work on my tan. Oh. And at the time, like this was 04, 05.
It wasn't
like, yeah, Iraq was popping at the time. And I was at Balad, which was the base that they were bringing everybody to for Casevac and all that stuff.
In there.
And, or Medevac. Yeah. So like, I mean, on a regular basis, there was bodies rolling in and out on stretchers and like, covered up. So they stood him at the flagpole for like 12 hours a day. I'm pretty sure he lost a stripe. I'm not kidding. I think of that, it chain reaction on him. And he was probably already in some insubordination type stuff anyway, just because nobody says that to a 3-star. They just don't.
He probably didn't want to be there to begin with.
Yeah, that wants to have a career. You're not going to say that, but
yeah,
But
I
anyway,
kind of agree with Steve on that one too. I don't think he wanted to be in Balad. He was
no.
He just heard about the pool and was like, "Yeah, we're there."
I think it was probably more along the lines he tried to get out of it before and got told no, and so
that too.
Hey, here's an opportunity to say something stupid to a general, so why not? Like, it was funny the first time. The second time, not so much.
He would have got away with it the first time. It was when he repeated it that he got it. But yeah, so I ran into General Gorentz in the gym in Germany, and I was like, "Man, were you ever in Iraq, sir?" And he's like, "Best year of my life." And we stood there talking. He's a giant dude. Like, I remember he used to do, I don't know what you call him, but you do the push-ups with the dumbbells, and you come up and you do like your back pulls. He would do that with like 90, like power rows with like 90-pound dumbbells. And this is as an old man. Like, he's a gray-haired old man, 3-star, doing push-ups and then doing his rows with 90-pound dumbbells. So I was like, that's pretty tough. But we stood there talking for a while, and he's like, "You ever need anything, like, don't hesitate to reach out." He's like, "I can't do everything, but I could help if you need it." And I was like, "I might, sir. I don't know. I got some stuff I'm trying to get my package pushed through." And I did end up shooting him a message, and he never responded. But I was like, "Hey, I have a package at AFPC, and it's kind of hung up right now. And I don't know if there's anything you do, sir, but I really appreciate any help I can get." And it was literally approved like the next day. So, and that was after I got back from that deployment. And it was just final push, but
it's possible.
I ended up
possible he helped.
Yeah, I mean, it could have, but I got the final approval the same day as I got my assignment, and so they literally, the emails came the same time, and the assignment people were like, you got to pick which one you want, and my assignment was going to F-35, so I was on C-130J models in Ramstein. And I was getting moved over to F-35s at Eglin. And I was like, Herbie, Eglin. And I was like, man, that's like the best assignment that you could get as a fuel shop guy. And the F-35s were just coming out, like that was when they were just getting sent to bases. So I was like, well, I didn't work for 2 years for nothing. So I was like, TACP it is. So I left. But yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't know what TACP is, kind of give us the breakdown. I mean, we know, but anybody who doesn't.
Yeah. So we're the sole Air Force guy that goes out with Army infantry units typically and calls in airstrikes for the Army. So we're always the outcast. But that's the spiel that I give people, like you tell them some sort of Tyrese and Transformers, but he's technically a combat controller in that, but now there's actually,
he promoted very quickly, by the way.
Yeah, he put on chief quick, but
yeah, he did.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way to explain it to people is, you'll never hear about us. We're typically the only ground combat job the Air Force has inherently, us in combat control, really. But yeah, not a lot of people walk in with the Army, so that's pretty much just us.
And I mean, I know Steve and I, as canine handlers, we've worked tons of missions with the Army, and we always get to know the TACPs and stuff like that get attached to those units. So they're not always left out. They have another guy there.
So, yeah,
we used to have a lot of fun with occasionally guys at Creech.
Yeah, we'd occasionally get like EOD guys or dog handlers or somebody like that. That's another Air Force guy, but there's not many. Even downrange. I mean, when you go to like Bagram, once we leave Bagram, because we're only usually at Bagram like overnight, and then we go out from there. But usually when we get out to where we're going, there's like nobody other than Army. But
so what made you choose TACP instead of combat control or pararescue? Was it the swimming that kind of you were like, yeah, no?
At first it was the swimming, but I was really training to swim. So we've gone back and forth as a career field, like, for student wise through the training pipelines of TACPs being in the swimming and then out of the swimming. And, it's literally gone back and forth for years, but, I didn't really want to be a PJ. I didn't really want the medic, background. But it really was between combat control and TACP. And I think it was because that chief just told me TACP, and I didn't know any combat controllers. So I knew guys that at the bar that were TACPs, and I knew a guy at the gym who I didn't know it at the moment. I probably found out a couple weeks after that chief had mentioned, like, go find out what a TACP is. That there was a guy that I lifted with that was an optometrist who was a TACP. So he actually cross-trained from TACP to be in optometry. And I only knew that he was a TACP before because he had a TACP shirt on in the gym the one day. And yeah, he ended up helping me out too. I had sent an email at the same time. I actually sent one to that general. I sent one to him, and he was like a senior airman staff sergeant. And he said the same kind of thing, like, you ever need any help? And I was like, I don't really know how much help you're going to be at, Air Force headquarters as a senior airman. But he ended up emailing Marty Klukas, who was a command chief and a legend in our career field. And it was between the chief and General Gorence that one of them pushed a button somewhere. But the email that guy wrote, he was either a senior airman or a staff at the time. He did write one of the most professional emails that I've ever read, though, to the chief.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, I barely knew the guy, but he knew how much effort I was putting in. We were in the gym together every single day, but he knew how much I'd been training and wanted it. So I think that's why he was willing to do it. But tried to remember that down the road.
Did you have to go through selection, I guess, being special warfare?
So we kind of, so when you get into the pipeline, that's really where it's changed now. So long story short, we didn't have a selection. You either make it through the pipeline or you didn't. The selection in the TACP side, when I came in, is usually to go to like your Ranger units or your, higher tier units. Typically TACPs are with conventional Army. So 101st Airborne and 82nd Airborne and, mountain guys and all that. So our whole pipeline is our selection, or was at the time. It wasn't labeled a selection. That stayed with the other three career fields. So it was usually like TACP and then PJ, SALT, and CCT. They were separate umbrellas because they fall under the Special Operations Command, and we did not. Ooh. So, yeah, and it's changed over time. There's been battles for years because TACPs always fell under ACC, which in ACC, that means, Air Combat Command is aircraft first, whatever's left for everybody else. So when you're talking about, an actual fighting unit, like a TACP unit, we need a lot of money. Like we inherently need a ton of money. And we always had, not always, but a lot of times we would have pilot commanders in all the TACP ASOSs. So that gets real. It gets real into the weeds, but that's who would run the TACP units, which made sense because you're jockeying for aircraft money, basically. And it's changing, and it's going to keep changing over time. Eventually, we're all going to be under the same umbrella. I'm out of that conversation now. I'm not currently up to date on it, but they've always been trying to work towards the same thing, similar to like the Army has the Green Beret, and then you have the shred outs of each, each job. The Air Force wants the same thing eventually. So
okay,
I think that's how it'll look years and years from now. But yeah,
I spent about half my career in ACC, so familiar with that one. High ops tempo.
Yeah. If the Air Force had its way, I think we would all wear the same beret colors. But our career fields have so much heritage that there's no old hat that's going to let that happen. No. Not anytime soon. If they might be forced to before too long, but I think, if anybody has their way, I think they'll go that route eventually. But
the Army did it, and it didn't pan out well for them because they went back to everybody else gets a hat. Everybody got a black beret.
So the black beret, they said that was actually a test for years for the Army. That was a test run for the berets. Yeah.
Test where everybody many years. Okay.
Yeah. When that happened, when they took them back, they were like, yeah, that was actually a test. We were testing them out. I was like,
they actually still wear them.
Yeah. I know some do, some don't. I
It
think the Air
depends on
Force
what
has more
uniform
now
they're in.
too. Yeah.
I've seen them more in their service dress, never back in their OCPs or any of the other uh uniforms, the tactical ones. It was always patrol cap, but yeah, I see them now in their service dress with the beret.
Well, Steve, we didn't really wear our berets that much anyways when we had ours. We always wear soft caps.
As much as we could. Yeah. And then
the Vegas heat sucks.
I was actually still in when they made the rule of the baseball caps going Air Force wide. So I had about a year and a half of wearing my baseball cap because they were like, unless you're performing active law enforcement duties, you can wear your patrol cap, or at the gate was mainly it. And I was like, well, I'm a tech. I'm never going to be at the gate. So patrol ball cap it is.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
So Josh, with the training, how hard was, because you were prepared, I'm sure it was a little easier than you were kind of being talked up that it was going to be, but how was the training when you were going through?
The training is a smoke session every single day. Like, so I went through and it stayed the same. The cool part to me is, you know, and when I came through TACP training, like they still didn't allow females. They still didn't allow females in any of the combat career fields. And that happened while I was at the end of my training that they did. But no matter what, the standard always stays the same. Like, that's to me, like the basis of, especially I can only speak for TACPs, and I'm sure the other career fields would say the same thing, but it doesn't matter who, you know, if somebody washes out, there's been things where somebody washes out of another one and they're like, well, they can go try out to be a TACP. Like, it's not going to be any easier. Like, you can, not easier than the other career fields, but we're not going to make it any easier just because you just came from somewhere else. Like, it's the standard is the standard is a standard. And no, it was a smoker. Like, and we messed up, you know, like, somebody messes up, you get smoked for 2 hours before PT even starts. Like, and that's just how it is, you know. Like, we had a guy go out and get, in trouble drinking downtown or in Pensacola, and it happened to be on a weekend where we were doing a fundraiser down in Pensacola, and the instructors let us wear pink TACP shirts because you're not through training. So, like, you're not a TACP yet. So we don't wear a beret, you don't wear nothing until you graduate. So they let us wear these pink shirts that, had our TACP crest on it. And they're like, don't mess this up. So if you go down there and make us look bad, we're going to make you look bad. And we did. We got smoked. We had a kid get arrested down there, and I knew it wasn't going to go well. And we raised a ton of money. Like, we were doing push-ups for money. We raised like thousands of dollars in this weekend. And at the time, I still had a major and a captain, because people washed out of our classes all the time. But when we showed up for PT, like, the commander of the formation would go to the front and meet the instructors in the morning. And he had this like plastic bag of cash, and it was all like wrapped $100, it looked like a drug deal going down. And one of my buddies was the guy leading the form. Thomas Jen was one of the guys leading the formation at the time. And he's like, that's not going to help you at all. Because, like, they already knew that we had a guy that got arrested because, it was the weekend. It happened on like Friday. This is on Monday. And I don't think I've ever been smoked for so long. Like, it was just like the day. Like, that's what we did for the day, was just get smoked. So, but no, it was good, man. I really felt like at the end of the training, like, you really weren't given anything, and on the days that, we would get sharked, they call it getting sharked down at Herbert Field. You get woke up in the middle of the night to go do PT sessions, and you'd be doing PT on the beach in the water and jumping in the mud. And yeah, it was good. It was some good training. I kind of liked the training down there better, especially like the field portion, because it is so hard. But I mean, it's just as hard here in Texas. But there's something about rucking and land navving through the swamp in Florida with no light that just makes you a little bit better, I think. But it's just as hard out here in Texas. I mean, anybody that's gone out in the woods in Texas knows that it's no joke trying to walk anywhere in the woods in Texas. But
no, I have plenty of cactus splinters I pulled out of my legs doing land nav and exercises in the middle of the night for field conditions. Not fun.
Yeah. So, but no, training was always good.
And so, I mean, of course, you know, the TACPs, we always heard about CCTs and PJs, and we knew the TACPs fairly well. But for anybody who doesn't, the TACPs you're the radio support for ground air support, and basically the airplanes. You're controlling the airplanes, dropping munitions.
So we are controlling anything that puts munitions on the ground in the battlefield. So not just radio support. They actually have they have an RTO. So we deal with anything that has firepower. So, or drones and stuff. But if we are on a team, or if we're with an Army infantry unit and they have their Army guns, they have their Army helos. If we're close enough to the coast and they're doing naval surface fires, we have bombers on station, we have drones on station, we have, fighters on station. That's all ours. We take ownership of every single thing and we incorporate it all into one scenario. So we're in charge of deconflicting every asset in the airspace that can affect the airspace. So it's a pretty crazy relationship that you build with the Army the commander knows, you know what I mean? The commander knows who we are when we show up because we have to brief him before we go on missions, but the other people really don't know. They're like, why is this Air Force guy with us?
This airman's with us? This guy?
And it's a relationship that's the exact same build up every single time. They're like, who's this guy? And then we go on a couple of missions and do some work and we're like blowing stuff up. And they're like, we love this guy. Like, we're never letting this dude go. Like, we're not, he's come with us everywhere. Familiar. Yeah. So until you prove your worth, which is a good thing though. And, we would have to tell our guys going on deployments and even before deployments, because I was stationed on Campbell for most of the time. And when you train with them, that's you're on their base. Like, so you got to earn it. So,
yep. Yeah. So you finished training and you said you go to Fort Campbell, right? And that's in Kentucky, I think it is.
Yeah,
Kentucky?
It's literally half the base is like in Kentucky and half the base is in Tennessee. So,
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how many deployments? How many deployments as a TACP?
4 as a TACP, and 4 as a TACP. So the rest were as a maintainer. So
now you've been stationed at an Army base after being stationed at Air Force bases. What was the comparison there?
I wouldn't say, everybody's going to say Air Force bases are nicer than Army bases. I would say usually like the PX or the BX. I was at Ramstein. Ramstein has, before I left, they have the biggest BX built on the planet. So they attached a 5-star hotel to the BX and they built a new BX. But Army bases are not fun to drive around because of the Army. It's not the makeup of the base. It's, when they do PT in the morning, there's 8 million people running on every road. And on a regular basis, if you take a turn down a road, if you're in the Air Force, you don't know what the Army's doing. Like, you don't get emails of the Army schedule. So like, you would turn down a road and all of a sudden there's a sergeant major that just jumps on the hood of your car. And that's not even exaggerating. That's just them jumping on the hood of your car because you're going down a road that they have closed on the other end. And you should know that. And I'm like, we never get along with sergeant majors. That's just a fact. Like, it doesn't matter. Air Force dudes, JTACs, TACPs in general, just do not get along with the sergeant major. That's just, we don't wear what they want us to wear. We don't, do what they want us to do. So, but they do control our living situation. So you got to walk a fine line, like, especially downrange. You piss off the sergeant major and you can live outside of the gate. So there's that. So if you want anything nice, you can't make them too mad. You just got to like watch what you're doing.
Being tactful, I believe, is a term that they use. Tactfully let them know.
Yep. You just got to pick and choose the right battles. because not all of them are going to be worth it. So
your four deployments as a TACP, where'd you end up going? Bagram, I'm guessing, because you mentioned it once.
Yeah, so we would go whenever we go to Afghanistan. We always go through Bagram, and then from there we'll go out to the different COPs or FOBs. Or I was at Salerno.
Okay.
I was at Chimkani. A lot of the ones most people never probably heard of. Jalalabad, the JBAD that everybody knows about. Yeah, and we would just bounce around to different places. One of the coolest places I ever went was I wouldn't say the coolest, but the best chow I had was Camp Clark. I don't know if you guys ever been through there, but I actually had my first deployment as a TACP. I was a ROMAD, so I was an assistant JTAC. So I was a staff, but since I just retrained, I was in training. I was in upgrade training. So until you're a certified JTAC, you're just the assistant. Like I can control helos. If there's work to be done, if I get to, blow some stuff up with some helos and get some stuff done, then great. But that's only if my JTAC will let me. So I was attached to a JTAC and I pretty much did whatever he told me to do. And then as soon as I got back, I got upgraded. But we ended up going to Camp Clark, and that was out of Salerno. And when we got there, they, regular chow hall or whatever looking. And then I get in there the one day and I think dinner was like the first meal that we had there. And there was like this line for this other room. I'd already went through the chow line and got my chow or whatever. And then there's like this other line. And I was like, what is everybody in line for? And they're like, oh, it's cake and wing night. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, they have cake and wings here. And I was like, I thought they were kidding. I was like, there's no way that you're serious. And he's like, no, they have like wings, like different flavors of wings. And so the story was, so every day there was like something different. Like there was a good breakfast one day, there was a good dinner another day. There was, and it was pretty regular that this happened. And I was like, why is this chow hall so much different than every other chow hall? And they were like, it's the guy that runs the chow hall. So his son was deployed to Afghanistan, and he was talking to him on the phone. His dad was the chef at the MGM or the Bellagio in Vegas. And he's like, how they treating you over there or whatever. And he's like, the food sucks. He's like, they're just, it's like barely considered food, typical Army chow hall. And he quit his job and moved to Afghanistan. And literally lived in Afghanistan. I mean, I'm sure he's back in the States now, but and put his own money into the food. So he would cook steaks to order. I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but we would be out, and there was a day they had sandwich day where he would make like thick bread, and then you could order like a BLT or a giant peanut butter and jelly sandwich that was like the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich I ever had. And we had a code system, and you could I wouldn't say you could we would call in a sandwich order to our bros on SATCOM. That way when we got back inside the wire, if we had somebody that was out on mission for a couple of days, when they got back, they were like, hey, make sure my sandwich order gets in. And we had our little thing on in our hooch. When they would call on SATCOM, we'd know what they were saying to what number sandwich order equated. Because you can't talk about sandwiches on the radio, but I can throw it in with my daily sit rep, or I can, when I'm getting my air schedule of aircraft, I can throw in my 2 cents of my sandwich order. So it's a little things,
It's absolutely.
It's ingenuity. It's ingenuity at its best.
Yeah. It was between that and I would order Diet Mountain Dew on Amazon and have it sent to Afghanistan. That was probably what I look forward to the most. And I'd order by like it was like it might have been an 8-pack of bottles. So I would have like one a week, like it was like champagne, and I would go find some ice somewhere and like have my little drink of it.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's funny how it's the little things when you're deployed that really make the deployment.
Absolutely.
Like it's not any of the big things that happen. I mean, there are some funny stuff that happens, but it's the little things like playing video games with your buddies and just talking trash and getting into some kind of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, deployments as a TACP are like what make you not a new guy when you go back, because like you don't have any credibility as a somebody who hasn't deployed. So you're literally the new guy until you deploy. So
you finished out your time there and you did a full 20, or did you do 18 or?
yeah, no, I did 20 years. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
20 years, 14 days. So
yeah,
so I ended up going.
Was all of your TACP time at the same base, or did you kind of move around too?
No, I went to I actually went back to Korea as a TACP, back to Osan actually as a TACP.
Right.
Yeah. So I did 4 years at Campbell, almost 5 years, and then went back to Osan, and then from Osan came here to San Antonio to the Special Warfare Training Wing that was really just being stood up here as an instructor. And did the instructor thing, and then became an op soup as I promoted. And I was trying to like let the military make my decision on whether I was going to retire or not by how good of an assignment I got after being an instructor. And it came up, I was like right at the mark where I was going to have to make the decision. And I was talking to the assignment guy, and he's like, well, where do you want to go? And I was like, man, I'll do Korea if you need people to go to Korea. I'll do Korea if you give me a good follow on. He's like, well, where do you want to go? And I was like, I'm pretty much only going to take Alaska or Hawaii at this point. I mean, I was going to be at 22 years by then. And I was trying to make senior. But he's like, well, I have both. I have Alaska and Hawaii. So where do you want to go? And I was like, well, I guess I'll take Hawaii. So I got Hawaii, and then when I got home and I had actually kind of set in, I was like, I'm just going to retire. And I just retired. So it did force the fact that I had to think about it, and knowing that I had the assignment I wanted, and I still wasn't like, nah. I was like, you know what? Anything over 20, I'm really just doing it because I want to. And I was like, yeah, I feel like I can go do something else at this point. And I'm still, I retired at 38. So, I was like, I'd rather go experience some other stuff and figure it out from there before I hate everybody. I didn't want to get to that point, because I could have stayed and, gone for senior and maybe chief someday. But I was like, by then, I feel like not everybody, but a lot of people are pretty burnt out by then. And they're just like, I don't want anything to do with it. And I still loved my time there. I had fun as an op soup, helping people out and influencing their careers. And when it started to become not fun, that's why I was like, eh.
So when you did click the button, did you start getting afraid of like, now I got to be a grown up again, and it's not being kid stuff?
No, I mean, once I clicked the button, my focus shifted, and that's where kind of, I would say, some of my disappointment in the people I worked with came in. Not everybody, but once I clicked the button and I was like, you have all these appointments and you have to start doing your medical stuff, and you gotta, you gotta start building everything up. They were like, so I guess we got to find a new op soup. And I was like, yeah, I'm retiring. Like, I have to do these things. And they're like, well, we have, schedules to build for students that are coming in. And I was like, I'm retiring. Like, I don't know how else to tell you, but like, and I was in the Special Warfare Training Support Squad. We call it the TIS, and it's over on Medina. We're all kind of in the same area, but we took on the scheduling and getting the students through the pipelines and all these things. And during COVID, me and one of the other girls were responsible for getting all the students to training. When the rest of the military pretty much shut down training because everybody had to be in quarantine and you couldn't fly anywhere, we literally coordinated our own aircraft to get students through airborne, to still run airborne. And that was like way at like Pentagon level stuff that they were having to coordinate through to let us do it. But there was an agreement made with the Air Force and the Army. Like, if you can get your students here after being quarantined on your own aircraft, we'll run them through. We ran more students through airborne during COVID than it had ever been in history.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. So it was pretty crazy, but yeah, we were doing a lot of stuff. So when it came time for me to retire, not like I'm, I wasn't the rock star or anything, but they were losing a piece that they didn't want to lose. So,
and then they're
but
like,
their
well, what are we
attitude,
gonna do now?
yeah,
Right.
their attitude. And there was, when I was there, they, right before I got there as the op soup, they had made it a TACP position, which is odd to have a TACP master sergeant in a unit that's a support unit in special warfare. But it was good for our guys to get some op soup time in a different environment and deal with different people, because we grew up in an ASOS as TACPs. So like, you don't get a lot of Air Force-y experience leading people in, at your own Army unit with all guys away from the Air Force itself. So they need that. So
Absolutely.
but, yeah.
So the day you got out, what was the goal? What was the goal when Josh decided clicking the button? Now what? What are you gonna do?
I wanted to make money. I was like, now's my chance to make some good money, like, because I've never been married. I have no kids. To this day, I still don't. So everybody's always like, you're living the dream. Like, and like in a lot of ways, like I'm responsible for me and my giant dog. He's around here somewhere. But
you gotta have a giant dog. Kind of match your size.
So I have a giant Doberman Pinscher. But I was actually doing a skill bridge with this company called Power Home Remodeling. Basically, they do windows and solar in sales, but they make really good money, like crazy good money. And so the skill bridge I ended up getting was in Austin, and I live in San Antonio. So I had no idea what that commute looked like. And to commute to Austin in the morning, 5 days a week, it was rough. I mean, it was not good. And at the end of the day, I would get out of work at like, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I was pretty much in traffic until 8 o'clock at night to get home. So it was brutal. So I actually only did like 2 weeks with them, and then I was like, this isn't worth it. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I don't know if you guys know much about the Skill Bridge program, but you get like, I think I had like 2 or 3 months of my Skill Bridge that I was going to do. So I basically, at the end of my 20 years in the military, I had my terminal leave at the very end, and I had my Skill Bridge before that. And I had like 3 months of Skill Bridge. So I had retirement ceremony, Skill Bridge, terminal, fully retired. And I backwards planned off of that. And about 2 weeks into that Skill Bridge, I was like, dude, this is horrible. And I don't think I'm going to do this as a job. So I'm not really worried about staying or, whatever. So I had to make the decision of, do I want to go back to work? Like, I already had a retirement ceremony. I'm gone. Like, right. They plan on never seeing me again. I already started growing a beard. Like, and I was like, dude, I think I'm going to have to go back to work. Like, it was miserable. Like, I was in traffic for like at least 5 hours a day.
Oh.
And I was just like, because I live on the west side of San Antonio. So coming from Austin, that's all the way through. And San Antonio by itself is bad enough, let alone coming from Austin. So then I was trying to like beat it in the morning, and I gotten pretty good at that, because I would leave at like 3 a.m. to get to Austin, and then I would work out there, get ready to, go to work, and then come back. But it was too much. So I actually went and talked to my old commander, and I was like, what would you want me to do if I tell these guys, hey, I'm going to cancel out of the Skill Bridge? Because sometimes that happens. People don't fit into a Skill Bridge. And if it could be the other way too, where the Skill Bridge company's like, hey, you're not a good fit for us. We don't even want you here. Right. But they did. They actually really liked me, but it didn't fit for me. So, and my commander was like, well, I guess you'll just shave off your beard and come back to work. And I was like, all right. So I went up to Austin, and I told him, I was like, hey, like, you guys are great, but I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, if you guys are in San Antonio, hands down, I would stay and do the Skill Bridge. But this being as far away as it is, I'm going to have to go ahead and cancel out of this. And they're like, all right, whatever. So I came back to work. But realistically, even coming back to work, my replacement was already in the seat working. And I was just basically job hunting at that point, so working on me. So it actually worked out great. And that's everybody awesome. Had already been to my retirement ceremony, so they didn't even ask me anything. They were like, we don't care about you. Like, we know you don't care. So
The beard looks good.
But,
just stay hidden in that closet right there.
Yeah. No, I shaved it off and I put my uniform back on and everything. Like I was full on back. But I ended up getting into a job at Wells Fargo. When I actually started my job, or started a job, when my terminal leave started, I was already working at Wells Fargo. Like I started like that day. And they had a boots to banking program, and I got a senior auditor position, which to me, I mean, anybody that's been leadership in the military, you do auditing all the time anyways. You're handling resources and logistics and all this stuff all the time. So I didn't really care what the job was. I didn't have disability coming in yet. I didn't know how everything was going to look. I just wanted a job. I could care less. But it was a good job. They had a boots to banking program that basically took in leadership from the military, or people that had the leadership qualities. And they're like, look, we want your leadership abilities. We'll teach you to do the job. Whatever our job is that we want you to do, we'll teach you to do that. We know you have the capability of learning it, and we want your leadership for our people here to rub off on our people here. So I did that for like 11 months. And then I made it until one of the guys leading our team was like, hey, I have a vacation coming up, and we're going to be working nights and weekends for like the next 3 months. And I was like, I'm out.
About that. Yeah, about that.
Yeah, because I was like, by then, like everything settled down. Like I had a regular paycheck now. I'd kind of, started getting into civilian life a little bit. And I really hadn't taken a break from anything. Like I went right to work. But I was still doing like my woodworking stuff. And I was really like side hustling these epoxy wave cutting boards to everybody that I knew. Like not hustling, but I mean, I just started doing them. I saw somebody making them. I thought they were cool. And then I was selling these cutting boards. I literally sold like 500 to 600 of those epoxy wave cutting boards, to the point where people would buy them like 10 at a time. And I loved it. And then I was doing laser engraving too. So at that point I was like, I think I'm just going to take a minute. And, I talked to the guy that hired me. They wanted me to stay, of course, but I was like, I was trying to go for a military position within Wells Fargo. That would have made me happy, but it would have still been in banking, which is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Like it was tough. Like I can do it, but even to hear people talk about banking on a like the nerdy scale, because I was in home lending, and I was a senior auditor in home lending. So you're dealing with like the real in-depth computer coding stuff and all that. And it is not. When I showed up in a like a dress shirt and a tie and slacks, and you don't have to dress like that all the time, but they're like, you look like a caged gorilla in here. You do not belong here. And I was like,
hey, in a China shop.
It is what it is, And one of the girls, and I still love all the people that I worked with at Wells Fargo, but one of the girls was like, Josh, there's going to come a time where you're going to be here working nights and weekends. And I was like, I'm going to tell you once, I will not be here nights and weekends. And if that's what you want, bankers, you guys literally coined the phrase banker's hours. And this is a bank. And now you're saying it's nights and weekends. And I was like, no, I get it. It was a salary job, but I was like, I'm not doing that. But it really forced me to kind of find some other stuff. And I just kind of expanded the woodworking stuff a little bit. And then, I did the woodworking thing. And right then, before I got out, and a lot of what you probably see with the flags and stuff was really brought on by the nonprofit world.
Which is where I got confused, because I had put something on Facebook that said you were a nonprofit. And I think I got confused because you support a lot of nonprofits because you're an LLC.
Right.
But you support a lot of nonprofits, especially the veterans. And I got confused on that.
Yeah, I knew nothing about nonprofits until the unit actually selected me for a trip they had. They had something come down that was like, hey, there's this fishing tournament for, we're going to send a couple of our special warfare guys to this fishing tournament out in California. We're like, cool. And like we all put in for it, and, like we had to do a little write-up or whatever. And they chose me and my buddy Rick. And then COVID happened. They canceled the whole tournament. but we were already like our names were in the system of the nonprofit. Freedom Alliance is the nonprofit that it was that time. And there was another trip that came up later, and they just made a post on Facebook that said, hey, we have a trip going to Montana. We're going to be doing whitewater rafting, fishing, and hiking and horseback riding. And I was like, well, that sounds cool. And I was still in at the time. And I talked to my DO, the major at the time, and I was like, hey, do you think there's any way? It was super last minute. It was like, this was on a Thursday and the trip was like Monday. Oof. And I was like, hey, like, is there any way that you think I could go? Like, this seems like a super awesome opportunity. And he's like, yeah, I mean, if you want to, throw your leave in there and go, he's like, I don't have anything for you. So, so I threw my name in, and it was just them accepting names. They weren't saying, hey, I was going to go. It was just, hey, we're, anybody can do a last minute trip. Shoot us a message. And it was like me and one other guy that messaged him. And he's like, hey, you're the second guy to say, and this was within like 5 minutes of them posting this. And I still know the guy to this day, but he was like, there's one guy ahead of you. If he says he can't go, then you're it. And I was like, okay. And then 2 minutes later, he's like, he already canceled. So you're going. So we'll send you a plane ticket to Montana and then have fun. And I was like, all right.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I ended up going. What I didn't know is that it was a full-on retreat. Like, it was like a retreat, like PTSD stuff, like war stuff. Freedom Alliance deals with all wounded combat veterans, anything from PTSD stuff coming out of combat to, limbs, people that have been blown up, stuff like that, TBIs. And when I was there, I think there was like 8 of us that were there. You would basically do an activity during the day. Like, one day would be like horsemanship and horseback riding. And then at night and during the day too, like later in the day, you do a session with an actual psychologist who's worked with veterans since like Vietnam. And this trip is the super in-depth version of a lighter trip that they have. So usually they like people go to their Costa Rica trip and do the light version, do some real coursework type stuff, and then go to Montana, where it's super in-depth, where you're getting into the feels, you're going into combat stories and stuff like that. But I was the only one that was still in that went on this trip. But we were working on some heavy stuff. And it was probably one of the coolest experiences that I think I had within the last like 10 years. Like, you're just really, you almost got to go through it. But the guy that has a ranch out in Montana that's partnered with the Freedom Alliance literally bought his ranch just to help veterans. And he's a Korean War veteran. And they just do some really, really like life-changing kind of activities and stuff. Like, I'll give you one example, but one of the things is doing it's a little kind of a, like a sage ritual. You're carrying some burden that you want to get rid of, and you would go find a rock on the property that we were on, and you give up this rock, and that symbolizes you letting whatever that was go. And we go down to the pool, and they had some sage type stuff, and you get in on one side of the pool, and then it's not like you're like diving in and there's not a party going on. It's a real somber kind of thing, right? And you go underwater, and to me, like in my mind, I'm like, this is kind of silly, but I'm gonna do it anyway or whatever. So you get in the water, and you can either swim on top of the water, you can go underwater to the other side. And I got out at the other side, and the guy and his 2 sons are there. His sons are both full grown, like they're all older than me. And then he himself is like late 80s from Korean War, and he's holding a towel, and he wraps the towel around me and gives me a hug, and he says, "Welcome home." And I lost it. Like, I completely lost it. And now, mind you, we've been doing a lot of deep work. You're writing, and you're like really kind of thinking things through. But man, the stuff that we learned, how they dealt with PTSD, even as during like the Indian times, that's when it was classified. They dealt with it better than we do today, and it's insane.
I see a big issue and a disconnect with the PTSD and with the VA and how the VA deals with it, because it's not the best. I think they're leaving a lot of things out for a veteran that suffers from it to really advance and progress and get better, not only for themselves but for their families.
Yeah,
families. I
mean, there's and that's I have a whole thing of stuff to talk about with that stuff too, but
we can bring you back on for another time with the talk about the VA if you need to.
Well, not just the VA, but the nonprofit world. So kind of like what I got from that little introduction with the Freedom Alliance itself, and that's just one nonprofit, was a whole world that I had no idea about. And I went back and I'm like telling everybody about it, and I'm like, man, I only ever heard of like the Wounded Warrior program. That's it. Mm-hmm. And everybody's heard of that, like, and that's the one. So there's between 45 and 60,000 veteran nonprofits. 45 to 60,000. Yes, 501c3s. And we spend $400 to $500 billion a year in the nonprofit space in the U.S. So there's a gap there.
Yeah, where does all that money go?
My next thing is connecting that gap of why doesn't everybody know about all the nonprofit stuff, all the nonprofit resources? The Air Force and the military in general is trying to fight the stigma of the 22 a day all the time, no matter whether you're talking about PTSD or whatever you're talking about. But the suicide rate, there's so many resources. So on that same trip in Montana, I'm sitting there talking. We were actually driving to go whitewater rafting, and back here in San Antonio, one of my buddies had just lost his leg. He got injured in a training accident. He was a combat controller too, and ended up losing his leg. And one of the things that the guy from the nonprofit was talking about was that they like to try and get track wheelchairs. That's one of the programs that they have for the people that need them. And I was like, man, I have a guy that would be the best thing ever. He literally just had his leg amputated, and he got property out in the country, and now he has no way to get around the property. Like, he's super limited. They didn't know it was going to be that severe. And he's like, yeah, have him fill out a package. They literally got him a $30,000-$40,000 track chair with all the goodies on it, drove it out to him, presented it to him. And I'm like, dude, like, there's so many things that you could connect people with if people only knew about it. And I was like, the hard part is nobody knows about it. So a lot of what I do now is, like, I got a flag right here, right? So I'll take a flag and I'll be like, hey, I'd like to give you one of my flags. I'll reach out to a nonprofit that somebody tells me about, and I'm like, I want to know what you do, and I want to know how a flag would help you. You know what I mean? So, like, usually a nonprofit will have like their fundraisers. They'll have banquets once a year where they have like their big fundraiser. And I was like, how do I get some people there? How do I get you a flag to auction off? The most one of my flags has went for, I think, is right at $4,000 right now.
Wow.
And at first, when I was doing the flags, because I was like, for me to be attached to one nonprofit and just focus on them, to me, it doesn't do what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm not trying to just like push a nonprofit at somebody or promote a nonprofit. I'm really trying to connect veterans with nonprofits to show them what they can do and try and get them more interested in that space. But when I was doing the flags, when I started off, I'd sell a flag and I'd donate $50 or $100 out of each flag to a nonprofit, and I'd let the person that buys the flag choose. So I would be like, hey, what nonprofit do you want to donate to? And they're like, well, I don't even know about any nonprofits. And I would educate them, and I would, like, hey, here's some really good ones. These are ones I know about. And I try and switch it up, so you're not always giving to the same one. But then I was like, it got kind of not repetitive, but I was like, I feel like I could do something more. So then I started donating the flag itself. So you pretty much sell a couple and then I donate one. I'd sell a couple and I donate one. And now I think I'd probably donate more than I sell, which is fine. But
no, but I've seen on your Facebook, I've seen you donating to a lot of these places, and I'm not as educated on nonprofits either. I'm kind of like in that space that you were in when you first went to your retreat. Like,
yeah,
why are we missing? I know there's a lot of resources out there. I just don't know what they
Mm-hmm.
are.
Yeah.
Is there like
There's
a website or a place where you kind of help
not yet.
list everything? Not yet.
Not
You're in the
yet.
process?
I'm in the process.
Okay. That's
So
good.
yeah, so literally my thing has always been whenever I go to any event, there's always a veteran that's like, "Hey, I did stuff with the Real Warriors, I did stuff with the Navy SEAL Foundation, I did stuff with Hero Hunt, you know, whatever." I just name outdoor stuff because that's a lot of what I know. But they're like everybody has like these couple things that they've done with all these people, and I'm like, why has no one consolidated any of this information? Like, why can't I just hand you a card that sends you directly to this Google of nonprofit resources? That way we can connect every veteran there ever has been or will be to these things. And they're like, nobody's done it. And I was like, well, I guess that's what I
Opportunity.
got to do then. Yeah. So, man, there's so many great things that all these different organizations do, and it's really like mind blowing. And I know what a lot of people see, especially on like my social media, is like, oh, Josh is on a hunt. You know, like I love to hunt no matter what. So if somebody says, hey, you want to go hunt somewhere? I'm like, yes. You just let me know when and when we leave, and I'm ready. But man, being able to connect with people enough, like I'll just call a nonprofit. And I have people send me all these nonprofits that they utilize or they know about or whatever. They know the people that run them. And I'm like, hey, let's talk a little bit. Tell me about what you do. One that happened recently, and I didn't end up doing anything with them other than donating the flags to them. They saw my work on another nonprofit's page that they know of. They're up in Minnesota, and they reached out to me. They're like, hey, we'd really like to get one of your flags. We don't know if we want to buy it or if you're willing to donate one. We're a very new nonprofit. We're really small. We take veterans out on this retreat in this lake in Canada, like 12 veterans a year or something, you know, and it's like a couple week trip, and it's a retreat thing to get them out away from the world. And we just love to connect with you. So I call her. I'm a call type person, like, hey, give me your phone number. I'm just going to call you right now because I hate email and texting. So I called her and we talked for probably an hour. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I have a flag right now that I was working on that I was like, it's not done yet. I'll put your logo on it. I'll finish it up and I'll send it to you. And she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. If you ever get to Minnesota, we'd love to connect. And I was like, well, that'd be awesome. You know, like, I was like, I'd buy a ticket to come hang out with you guys. She's like, well, we actually have a fishing trip coming up this summer. And we'd love to have you. If you think you could go, we'll put you on the trip. And I'm like, yeah, like count it. I didn't end up being able to go, whole nother story, but it's just the stuff like that I know the way it looks on the outside is just like, oh, you're just going to go on another fishing trip, whatever. But I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't know. And I don't think I sent you guys my video that I made my YouTube. I don't know if you saw it, but I have a YouTube video that one of the dudes just made for me, kind of what I do and like what the flags have done recently. But when somebody is able to put an event on a calendar, like I'm going whitewater rafting in Oregon in October, like, and I know that, like, I can talk about that. Like my buddy Mike and I are going, like, I'm going to look forward to it. He's going to look forward to it. You might work out a little bit more. You might go train a little bit more. You might go get some gear, start looking at, but you're going to look forward to that. You know, if I told you you're going on a trophy fishing tournament in California next year in November, you're going to put that on your calendar and you're going to look forward to that. And I was like, that's just something simple. It doesn't always have to be something that extravagant, but it's something with other veterans. It's something to like add some spice to your life. Like you reconnect with people. Like there's so many opportunities just like that people have no idea that exists, and they're endless. Like there's a million of them.
And it's funny because you say that, and it's kind of like, it really does help, right? Because you're giving somebody something to look forward to, and maybe having that event stops them from wanting to take their own life. And you know what I'm saying? It gives them something to hope for and to push for and to strive for. Especially as veterans, we thrive greatly on goals.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I mean,
you're giving them that.
Yeah, I can count on more than one hand the friends that have called me or people that have called me that I've either stopped from committing suicide or they straight up told me they were thinking about doing something stupid. The story I told in the YouTube video was a guy that called me and was like in a really shitty time of his life. Like they're getting divorced, multiple combat deployments, PTSD, lost his job, and called me and was like, hey, I'm just kind of going through it right now. And I was like, well, man, what if I could connect you with somebody that could, get you on a trip of some sort? It might be a camping trip or something with some other veterans or whatever. I was like, would you be interested in doing it? Because not everybody is. Not everybody's going to be like, yeah, let me just hop on a plane. But he's like, yeah, I'd be interested to hear about something like that. I literally hung up with him, called somebody else, and I was like, hey, I got this dude. He's going through it. Usually there's a longer process to it than that. Usually it's like you sign up for a nonprofit, you kind of watch for an opportunity. You're like, hey, I'd like to do that. They do a drawing, and then they select a bunch of random people. But in some cases where there's somebody that's in a situation where it's like, this person needs to be out in the world, this could save their life, let's make that happen. And to have those resources, I mean, I still have a friend because of it. Literally, like my friend's still alive because of it. So I called that dude. He's like, hey, we have a trip going on the same Oregon trip that I'm going on in a few months. It's coming up. This was a few years ago now. And I could get him on that. We had a guy drop out. If you think you get him to fill out the paperwork, and I sent it to him within like 20 minutes. He was on that trip, plane tickets in hand, going camping with a bunch of other combat dudes, and literally went on that trip and opened up his eyes to a whole another group of people, like added something to his life that was really good at the time. And then, a bunch of events have happened since then. Now he's, going on to do amazing things. He's helping veterans. He's getting degrees in mental health. And like, it's just, and that's just one instance out of, I don't know how many. And people reach out to me because they see me on social media being like, connecting with these organizations. And not everybody, some people do it in a way where it's like, I want to go on a hunt too, which you're going to have that no matter what. I mean, you really are. You got to deal with it. Some people just want to go do something, which is, maybe they need that too. But some people need help too. And, our community, what I would like to try and get people to think about is like, I don't need a handout. I don't need, and I'll ask people like, hey, have you ever done anything with nonprofits? They're like, I don't really, it's not really my thing. I'm like, do you hunt? And they're like, well, yeah, I hunt. But I was like, would you go hunt if it was free? And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, I'd think about it or whatever. And I'm like, so by you throwing up the stiff arm that I'm too cool for school, I get it. But at the same time, if you don't know about the resources, neither does anyone that you care about. There might be somebody that is not well off enough to have a hunting lease somewhere or hunting property somewhere that, man, having an experience like that might bring them back to the world. So if you don't know about it, you can't help anyone because you don't know about it. So it's like, if we don't educate our own, then, they can't educate anybody either. So, and I'm pretty resilient. Like I've been through a lot of stuff, but like I say in my YouTube video that I just put out, was like, this last year was the worst year that I could have probably had. So I went through my whole career never having an issue, never being in trouble, never nothing, no, LOCs, no nothing. I was doing everything I could, doing school, getting promoted, like boom, all these things. So when I got out of the military, I really didn't have any limits, and I wasn't a huge drinker, but I would party, I'd go out on weekends and party. And I ended up getting pulled over in 2023, getting arrested for a DWI out in Comal County here in Texas. Nothing happened. I didn't hit anything. I was pulled over doing a GPS on the side of the road, and the cop literally pulled up and was like, you smell like alcohol. And I was in the wrong, right? So that happened in 2023. And in Comal County, there's so many DWIs and stuff that it just takes forever to get through the system. So it literally went to court last December at the end of 2024. It finally, it started the process. So, and in that same year, my best friend died of liver disease. My grandma passed away. My aunt passed away. My uncle passed away. My mom passed away, all within 8 months, in an 8 or 9 month time span. And you know, even for somebody as resilient as I like to think I am, man, the world just, it just caved in. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden I went from like, everything is, I'm on the top of the world to, you know, I got a breathalyzer in my truck. I'm on probation. Everybody that I know, like the two people that I talk to every single day of my life, my best friend and my mom, both gone, you know? So now I'm like, you know, you're alone, you're, you know, you're down in the dumps. But to me, I live off of a planner. My planner's right across the counter. And I like to have my whole year, like I'll sit here, I have stickers in there. People laugh. Like I got deer head stickers in there. I'm like, I know I'm going on a hunt this day right here. And no matter what anybody thinks when they see like, oh, Josh is going on another hunt, like you don't know why those people need that. If I never told anybody all that stuff happened in a year, nobody would ever know, because that's how we are. Like I can compartmentalize everything and you'll never know it. Like, and unfortunately, the people that we know are so good at that, that usually when you don't know, it's too late.
Yeah. Like I agree with that. I agree with it.
We had a guy, you know, unfortunately, you know, murder suicide recently. And a lot of people just you don't know what they're going through. You don't know, you know, the friends I've lost to suicide, there's no warning, you know, there's just 1 minute they're fine and the next minute they're gone. And it's like, man, if I could have reached more people, you know, if, you know, and you're not putting it on yourself, but you got to do as much as you can. And it's easy to do nothing. You know what I mean? I don't know who says it. I think it's like Alex Hormozy that talks about it. And he's like, there's never been a time where, you know, with the advances we have in like the internet, and it's like to be in shape, to make money, to do all these things, but it's also never been just as easy to do absolutely nothing, because of how easy and how much information you have at your fingertips. And I think about that in what I'm doing, as far as like, you have to utilize the resources to help people when you can. Because you don't want to be there after the fact and be like, man, I wish I would have done something, you know? But yeah, that's mainly where the flags kind of came from. The flags came out of the cutting boards, and I really was just making one because I thought it was cool. I saw somebody make it on YouTube and I was like, I bet you I could do that. So I messed around with it and I was carving one in my driveway. Took me like 5 hours and I got waves carved in it. It looked really good. And then I left it in the garage for like a month and I didn't touch it. And I went on a trip, and one of the guys there, I showed him what I had started. And he's like, you got to finish it. And I was like, I don't know, man. He's like, no, I have a man cave decor company I'm starting right now. And I want to buy like 5 of them and sell them. And I was like, well, I'm not done with the first one, so I don't know how that's going to work for you. So
let's see how 5 goes.
Yeah. So, but it drove me to get back and kind of figure it out. So I painted it, epoxied it. I mean, it looked amazing, and I posted on Instagram. And one of my buddies saw it, who works at a car dealership, and he called me. He's like, how much you want for that flag? And I was like, it's not for sale, man. I don't think I'm gonna make any more. That's the only one I've made. It took me forever to finish it. And he's like, well, I got a guy standing here on speaker and he wants it. So how much do you want for it? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, if you did sell it, what do you think you'd sell it for? And I was like, $1,776. And he's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to sell it. So, I mean, I'd rather just keep it. And the guy in the background's like, I'll take it. I was like, damn it. Like, so that is what my first one sold for. But now, I mean, I'm actually going to go back to work after this and keep putting numbers on. But I think today I'll put numbers on 308 or 9, I think, today.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I've made a lot of them, and people don't know like how much work goes into each one. So my stars are metal on my flags, and each one of the small flags have 5 little spikes on each star. The big flags have 10 little spikes on the back of each star. And I have to sit here and clip all the little spikes off and then drill the star on a drill press and nail it onto each flag. So just in that process alone, you know, you're talking 500 little spikes you have to clip off of the stars by themselves, just to get stars on them. And I had one guy order 13 flags all at once. Yeah. Oof. And I was like, that's a lot. I mean, it's good. but that's a lot of work.
I mean, it's good because, I mean, if he's paying you good money, it's good money, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, ooh, it's
there's still some work that goes. There's a lot of work that goes with it. But yeah, I mean, for now, and to me, the flags aren't. I don't think they're forever. I'll always do it just because I can, and I think they're cool. But I may or may not go back to work here before too long, but we'll see. I got to get my website and stuff up. It's an app that I want to do, actually. So,
well, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah. So there's more to it, but hopefully we'll do another podcast down the road, and I can tell you when it's already
absolutely
up and running and out in the world. But man, the people I've got to meet.
That's why we started this, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get the word out as to what the resources are out there, and what better tool than an app that puts everything into one spot. You know, I got to log in the 3 different things just to view my VA appointments. You know? Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. One guy asked me to put, one of my buddies asked me to put the VRE info out. And he's like, you know, a lot of guys don't know anything about what used to be called Voc Rehab is VRE now, if you guys didn't know that. But, you know, he just asked me that yesterday. He's like, why don't you put that out on your platform? And I was like, I'm not trying to regurgitate everything the VA is doing, but there just is a lot of information that people don't know about. The nonprofit space, man, is just, there's so much to it. Like, there's nonprofits in every single city. There's nonprofit, like in San Antonio, if you like to hunt or do anything. So there's a bunch of them that do stuff with veterans, first responders, and their families. And the only prerequisite is that you're a veteran, a first responder, or a family member. And that's it. Like, you don't have to be a combat veteran. You don't have to have a Purple Heart. You don't have to have a Bronze Star. None of that stuff. You just got to have done the thing, and now they want to be in your world. And there's people that want to help. You know, the biggest thing I see going to like these banquets and stuff where they're raising funds for these nonprofits is the people that are there. That's their way of helping.
Yeah. So,
and when I hear our guys like, I don't need that, I'm like, if you don't utilize the resources, they go away. It's the same as funding. That's the same as funding in the military. If you don't utilize your budget, it's not going to be as high next time. So, you know, all these people, all the donors and stuff like that, they like helping. They like seeing the money utilized, and they like seeing good stewards of their money. And what I gravitate towards is nonprofits that I see doing great things. That's all I care about. If I see them taking veterans out and doing great things, you just let me know how I can help. Like, if it's a flag that you can auction off at your next banquet, I'm in. But, you know, making those connections is crazy to me. Like, I love doing it.
And that's awesome, man. If you know, I know Steve and I have talked about it. We would love to sit there and help out any way we can too. You know, and so I think after we're finished recording, we'll get together and figure something out too. Because
absolutely.
You know, we're all about it. We're all here for our brothers and sisters that have served. You know, first responders, veterans. That's why we're here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know where these flags will take me, but they're already in the next little bit. You might see one on some well-known TV show, I'm hoping. They're in the hands teaser. They're in the hands. Yeah, they're in the hands of some pretty well-known people that are supposed to be doing some good stuff with them. So so there's some cool people that all moved out to Austin that got involved in the comedy scene out there that
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Josh, as we begin to wrap up, man, we're going to wrap up for tonight. Where can anybody find you that's looking for you or that's interested in everything that you've talked about?
So War's End, you see it on the shirt here. You can't see it that well, but Wars _end on Instagram, and then my Facebook is just Joshua Melching, and you'll see them both. You'll see me on there, but yeah, that's the easiest place to find me. So
awesome, Steve. You any last words, buddy?
Appreciate you coming on, telling your story, and can't wait till we see that app fully functional, because I know you're gonna make it happen, right? I'm sure you got that on your calendar somewhere on your planner, right? So I'm excited to see that and talk more about that at the next time. So, but thank you for sharing your story, even the the downfalls of, what you had to experience and what you went through and how you overcame that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for everybody who's listening, if you like what you're listening to, hit comment, hit like, subscribe on YouTube. You can also subscribe and like and comment on Spotify and Apple if you're listening to us there. We thank you guys for joining. Josh, thank you very much, for your service and for your commitment to the country and what you're doing even now for the brothers and sisters that we all support and we love. And thank you for your time, man. I know it's valuable, so thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.